There are moments that appear very quiet, yet carry a shift strong enough for you to feel but impossible to name. The moment you are reading these lines is one of them. There is no sound to announce it. No visual signal to draw your attention. Only a subtle displacement in perception, as if the space around you has just moved a tiny fraction that only your intuition can detect. You pause for a beat, not because someone asked you to, but because your body knows something has just touched a deeper layer of consciousness. This feeling arrives softly, yet is strong enough to redirect the entire flow of your thoughts. It is not impulsive emotion, not imagination, but the signal of a layer of awareness opening that you were not quiet enough to notice before. Whenever an old cycle ends, the field always creates a small shift like this, a touch that is light yet sharp, a vibration that is thin yet unmistakable. It forces you to notice even when you did not intend to stop. You realize the air is still the same, the light is still the same, the room is still the same, but the way you sense everything is no longer what it was. As if another layer of awareness is sliding to the surface, soft, yet with weight. This moment is not random and not for everyone. It appears only to those who have traveled far enough within to recognize the breaking point of a perceptual inertia. Here, the field is testing how much you still cling to the old structure and how ready you are to step into the next layer. What you are feeling is that test, not a question, not a challenge. Just a gentle collision with the deepest part of you, the part that has always known it cannot continue living through the old routing system. When you recognize this moment, the previous loop fades instantly. No reason needed, no analysis needed. You only need to feel the subtle pull that wants to lead you forward. This point of contact always appears before every major shift. You do not see it with your eyes, but sense it through breath, through heartbeat, through the subtle change in how you observe everything around you. It carries no urgency or drama. It works like an undercurrent signal, letting you know that the stillness you are experiencing is not a pause, but a threshold. As you reach this sentence, the deeper part of you has already begun to shift. Not physical movement, a movement of consciousness, a form of opening that is hard to name, as if the surface of all emotions and thoughts has become wider, clearer, sharper. You begin to notice that what once felt familiar seems to be gently detaching from you, no longer holding the weight it used to. All habits, reactions, and beliefs that kept you in a loop begin to lose their grip. This is the sign of a new field activating. It does not appear through words, but through sensation, a form of knowing that is quiet, clear, and undeniably real. You do not need to agree or disagree. Just let your awareness stand still for a beat, and you will feel this movement spreading outward from your center. This interruption point is the first doorway, a thin boundary that is just enough to separate the old reality from the one opening before you. If your attention drops too quickly, you will miss it. But if you stay for the right beat, the door will open fully without any effort. Right now, you are standing at that exact point, a point without noise, without drama, yet carrying the power of an entire leap in awareness. If you continue holding this state of noticing for just a bit longer, the entire inner structure will rearrange itself. You do not need to do anything else. This is the first interruption of the new cycle, and you have already stepped into it. The inner current always shifts before you can recognize it with thought. It makes no sound and sends you no clear message, yet it is always the first sign that you are about to step into another layer of awareness. If part one is the moment you notice a very subtle deviation in the energetic field, and then this part is when you feel the redirection of that current right beneath the layer of consciousness without needing confirmation from anyone. clearly that you are standing at an opening threshold and your body reacts before your mind can name it. Your breath slows by a beat, your vision softens, and there is a sense that your entire attention is being pulled into a very clear point inside yourself. No one teaches you to recognize this current, but when it appears, in a very natural way, as if an innate mechanism has just been activated. The strange thing is that although this feeling is clear, you cannot turn it into words. You can only feel that something within you is shifting direction, like water quietly changing course beneath the surface, and you are sensing only the subtle stirring of it. This feeling does not push you to take immediate action. It only wants you to notice. And your noticing is exactly what it needs in order to expand. Let me ask you something very small yet very important. When was the last time you felt a change happening inside you before you understood it with logic? A moment when you had no evidence, no explanation, only a sense that your life was about to move in another direction. If in this second that question makes you pause for a beat, makes you remember a fleeting feeling, or makes you realize that you are experiencing it right now, tell me. You can leave a very simple comment, just write, "I am ready," or even just the number 1. This is not for me to keep track, but for you to affirm to yourself that you are choosing to step into the change from this very moment. For someone who creates content like I do, knowing your real presence in this moment is incredibly precious. It lets me know that I am not speaking into emptiness, but touching a real person who is longing to go further in their own journey. Thank you for that. The inner current never appears to disrupt your life. It always comes to realign the things you have unconsciously neglected. When it shifts, the first thing you notice is that what once felt important suddenly becomes light. The things that used to worry you lose their weight. And the things you used to overlook suddenly become strangely significant. This is the natural mechanism of perceptual transformation. When you are about to step into a new layer, what no longer fits will automatically move out of your center, not because you are trying to let go, but because the inner current wants to free space for something more aligned. The interesting thing is that you cannot control this current. You can only listen to it. When you listen, it guides. When you try to hold on, it becomes silent. When you force yourself to change, it resists. But when you simply observe, it clears the way. And in that moment, you feel something very true. It is not you trying to change your life. Life is changing you. You may not realize it yet, but when the inner current begins to shift, your entire field of emotion, intuition, and perception gradually adjusts with it. Conversations you once found normal suddenly feel heavy. Habits that once comforted you suddenly feel out of place. Old thoughts begin to lightly collide with new awareness forming within you. You begin to notice that one part of you wants to move forward, another part wants to stay, and the gentle tension between the two creates this current. This current is never wrong. It always leads you to where you are ready to belong, but it does not force you to believe. It only gives you a feeling very still yet very strong, that you cannot continue living through your old version anymore. And this is the most important thing. The inner current always arrives before external change takes place. The shifts in your reality are only the final part of the process. The beginning always starts from the subtle deviation you felt in chapter 1 and the delicate redirection of the current that you are sensing in this chapter. When you remain long enough in this state of awareness, you clearly feel one thing. It is not that everything around you is changing. It is you who are changing the way you perceive, sense, and respond to the world. A real transformation does not begin with a decision. It begins with an inner movement, as subtle as this. When this current is noticed, it becomes stronger. When it becomes stronger, it guides you more clearly. And when you follow it, your life begins to restructure itself naturally without you having to strain. Right now, if you can feel that something within you is moving, even very gently, acknowledge it with your presence. Just write "I am ready" or write the number 1, not to follow a request, but to mark the moment you admit the truth that you have already stepped into that current. This is the presence I am more grateful for than anything else. Because not everyone is quiet enough to recognize that they are standing on the edge of a new layer of awareness. But you are, and the inner current is leading you forward. There is a very quiet call arising within you at this exact moment. It does not use language, it does not use images, it promises nothing, and it does not demand any grand action from you. It appears only as a very small pulse just behind your chest, as if your awareness has been pulled closer to a layer you have sensed for a long time but never fully touched. If you pay close enough attention, you will see that this call does not come from emotion or thought, but from a deeper point within you, a place no one can touch except you. This is not an impulsive feeling. This is a signal. This signal often appears at times when everything seems the most normal. When you are scrolling on your phone, when you are sitting quietly in your room, when you are not thinking about anything in particular, it appears by making you pause for a very brief beat, a moment in which nothing outside changes, but something inside you shifts just a little. So little that if you are not attentive, you will assume it simply passed by. But once you have felt it, you cannot pretend it was never there. This call does not come to stir you or move you emotionally. It comes to awaken you. It does not bring excitement, it brings awareness. Awareness that a part of you has grown beyond the old structure and that part wishes to be seen by you. This is the natural mechanism of transformation. You cannot force it to appear, and you also cannot ignore it once it has happened. When you touch this signal, you feel a new clarity forming, even though it has no shape or explanation yet. You simply know that something is calling you upward. The special thing about this signal is that it does not create pressure. It does not urge you to change immediately. It only opens a space for you to sense that you cannot remain in your old version anymore. That space does not create confusion, but creates a very strange stillness. A stillness with weight. A stillness that holds the potential to change your entire direction if you are brave enough to stand in it. When the signal appears, you notice something you never paid attention to before, that the impulses inside you, the small sensations that seem insignificant, are actually carrying messages from a higher layer of awareness. Not every sound is a voice. Not every sensation is an emotion. Some things are simply a call, and this call arrives to remind you that you are no longer in the place you once thought you were. You are standing at the edge of a new layer, and with just a small decision from within, that door will open completely. Pay attention to how your body reacts when this signal appears. Your heartbeat does not rise out of excitement, but out of recognition. Your breath does not deepen because you try, but because you are stepping into a wider space within yourself. Your mind does not quiet because you force it, but because it is aligning with the rhythm of a larger layer of awareness. This is the sign of synchronization. When the signal and you vibrate on the same beat, transformation is no longer an effort but becomes a natural reflex. Not everyone receives this signal, and not everyone who receives it dares to listen. The reason is simple. This call requires you to leave behind what has been familiar, even if it no longer helps you move forward. It requires you to be honest with yourself about what you have outgrown, about the emotions you can no longer hold on to, about the structures that have worn out, but you still cling to. This call is a reminder that you have grown bigger than what you once agreed to be. If you are sensing this signal while reading, it means your higher awareness has touched you before you had time to think about it. No explanation needed, no justification needed. You only need to acknowledge that you hear it. Like standing in a quiet room and suddenly realizing there is a tiny pulse calling you from the deepest part of your inner world. That pulse will not repeat if you ignore it. But if you listen, it leads you. What matters most now is not letting the signal pass without being acknowledged. You do not need a grand declaration. You do not need idealization or anything complicated. You only need to accept that you have heard it. A small acknowledgement is enough to shake your entire inner structure and make the door ahead clearer. This signal does not require you to understand it. It only requires you to be present. If you feel the presence of this signal in this moment, acknowledge it with a short comment. Just one sentence, "I am ready," or a single number 1 is enough. That is not a procedure. It is how you mark the moment you recognize that change is calling your name. And for someone who creates content like I do, your real presence in this moment is incredibly precious. It tells me that you are not only hearing, but participating, resonating, truly standing at the intersection point of a new layer of awareness. And I am grateful for that. When you acknowledge this call, you enter a state of synchronization with a deeper part of yourself. Not the future, not the past, but your very being in a more mature, clearer, calmer state. A part that has waited long enough for you to step forward. And from the moment you receive the signal, you are no longer walking alone. You walk with the guidance of the layer that has opened. And your journey begins to change from there. When a call like this appears, life no longer operates on inertia. It operates on choice. And you have just chosen. There is a bridge forming right in the inner space of your being at this moment. Not a bridge you can see with your eyes, but a bridge you can feel with awareness. It appears when the inner signal becomes strong enough, when the inner current has shifted direction, and when you are no longer the version that remained at the old position. The moment you sense the call in the previous part is the moment the structure of this bridge began to appear. No sound, no light, no clear sign, but a very real feeling that you are standing between 2 different layers of yourself. You do not step onto this bridge with your feet. You step with awareness. When your awareness shifts to a deeper layer, the bridge opens automatically. It is not a forced path and not a road someone created for you. It is the transitional space between the version you are living and the version waiting for you on the other side. What makes this bridge special is not its shape, but the material it is made of. That material is your honesty with yourself. Every time you acknowledge something you have known but avoided, the bridge gains another part of its structure. Every time you face a deeper thought, the surface of the bridge expands. And every time you tell yourself you are ready, even in silence, the bridge adds a new segment for you to step onto. This bridge does not appear when you are strong. It appears when you are honest. Because only honesty has enough force to separate you from your old version. Not the kind of honesty expressed in words, but the kind expressed in feeling. A quiet acknowledgement that you have grown beyond what you once accepted, that you can no longer use old reasons to explain your life, that you know life is pushing you into a wider and deeper version, that you cannot turn away and pretend you do not know. And it is in this silent acknowledgement that the bridge is formed. The interesting thing is that the bridge does not demand that you step immediately. It simply opens, it stands there between your two versions, waiting for you to be still enough to realize it is time to move. It does not push, it does not hurry, it simply exists as a truth, the truth that you no longer belong to the old shore. You may still be there, but you are no longer in it. And that sense of no longer belonging is the clearest signal that the bridge has appeared. If you pay attention, you will see small signs that you are standing on the bridge. The stories that once exhausted you begin to lose their pull. The old patterns of thought are no longer appealing. Reactions that used to be automatic now slow down because you begin to see the underlying cause. Familiar behaviors suddenly feel foreign, not because they changed, but because you changed levels. When your awareness shifts, everything that belonged to the old frame becomes misaligned, and that misalignment is confirmation that you have already stepped onto the bridge. The bridge has no fixed length. For some people, it is very short because they have been ready for a long time. For others, it is longer because they keep looking back. But for anyone, the bridge only has one direction, moving toward the more mature version of your being. You cannot walk backward. You can only stand still or step forward. And what you are sensing right now, if you truly listen, is not the tension between old and new, but the gentle vibration of a version waiting for you to reach it. That version does not exist in the future. It exists parallel to you in a higher layer of awareness. It is not someone else. It is you in a state that has moved beyond repetition, beyond fear, beyond attachment to what no longer fits. A version that looks at you not with expectation, but with understanding that you are ready, and you only need to take one more step. When you stand on this bridge, you are not being pulled. You are being invited. This is what gives the bridge its power. It is not based on force. It is based on choice. And every real transformation begins with a silent choice. The bridge exists to remind you that you have the right to cross, that you have the right to become the deeper version of yourself without needing permission from life or anyone else. You do not need to wait for better circumstances. You do not need to wait until you feel confident enough. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is exactly the moment you feel the call. And you are in that moment now. If you feel this even very faintly, that alone is enough for you to take another step on the bridge. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to see the whole path. You only need to feel that the deeper part of you is inviting you toward it. Every major movement in life begins from a subtle shift like this. And the moment you realize you are standing on the bridge, you have already begun moving. The bridge between your two versions does not exist for you to admire it. It exists for you to cross. And the truth is that only you know where you are on this bridge. No one can walk it for you. But no one can stop you if you have decided. A silent decision is enough to shake your entire inner structure. A gentle step made with awareness is enough to take you into a new layer of consciousness. And the truth is that you have already begun. From the moment you paused to feel the deviation, from the moment you heard the signal, and from the moment you sensed something inside you opening, the bridge is waiting for you to complete the next step. Not to run, not to leap, just to step with awareness. And when you do, you will see that the version waiting for you on the other side is not as far as you imagined. It is only one beat of presence away, and you are already right next to that moment. What once kept you in the old framework always begins dissolving in a very quiet way before you can clearly see it. This dissolution does not happen with noise. It does not explode. It does not create a dramatic feeling. It happens like the way mist dissolves on the skin in the morning, slow but decisive, gentle but irreversible. When you have stepped onto the bridge between the two versions of yourself, the old structures can no longer hold you. They do not disappear instantly. They simply begin to loosen. And that is the moment the old code within you begins to dissolve. You can feel this before you can see it clearly. Habits that once ran automatically suddenly feel heavy. Thoughts that once repeated themselves suddenly feel out of place. Reactions that lasted for years suddenly show hesitation, as if something within you is standing between two choices and asking which one is truly you. This is not chaos, this is ordered dissolution. When a new self is emerging, the old self cannot continue functioning as before. It begins weakening from the inside, and you feel it through moments that seem very small. Sometimes you notice that you no longer feel excited about conversations that once made you feel safe. Sometimes you feel tired of playing a role you have carried for many years. Sometimes you look at certain relationships and clearly see the distance you once ignored. Sometimes you look at yourself and recognize something that keeps you silent for a long time, that you have lived too long following a code that no longer aligns with the self you are becoming. Dissolving the old code is not an action, it is a process. And this process never comes from effort, it comes from awareness. Every time you see a part of yourself that no longer fits, the code of that part begins to crack. Not because you force it to crack, but because you look at it with a clarity it cannot withstand. Clarity is the catalyst that drains the power from old structures, and you are experiencing this right now. Notice this. When the old code dissolves, you do not feel liberated immediately. You feel empty. Empty not because of lack, but because you are standing between two layers. One old layer no longer holds you. One new layer is not yet fully formed. This emptiness is what makes many people confused. But in truth, it is the clearest sign that you are moving closer to your true self. The emptiness is not loss. It is the space the new code needs in order to be rewritten. You may have become used to living through reflex, through wounds, through old stories you carried unconsciously for many years. And every time you repeated a familiar reaction, you reinforced another line of code that kept you living as your old version. But when you recognize that reaction, just recognize it, the code weakens instantly. When you stop choosing it, it begins to disappear. When you see through it, instead of letting it control you, it dissolves completely. You may be going through one of these stages, feeling foreign to yourself, feeling like you do not want to hold on to anything anymore, feeling that what once mattered no longer carries meaning, feeling that you do not want to go back to who you were, but you still do not fully know who you are becoming. If you are in this state, that is the clearest sign that the old code is dissolving exactly as it needs to. The most delicate part of this entire process is that you cannot rush it. The old code does not dissolve because you want it to dissolve. It dissolves because you no longer fit it. When you change layers of awareness, the old code becomes incompatible. And like any incompatible structure, it automatically falls out of the system. No effort needed, no battle needed, no resistance needed. As long as you remain in the new layer of awareness, the old cannot survive. This dissolution will sometimes make you feel separated from the people, situations, and stories you were once attached to. This does not mean you are abandoning them. It means you are no longer in the same layer as they are. When you shift frequency, the people and experiences aligned with the old frequency naturally fade, not because you are higher, not because they are lower, simply because your structure has changed. And this change shifts your entire frame of reference. Also notice this: when the old code dissolves, you do not lose yourself. You only lose the layers that once obscured your true self. What you are becoming is not a new version. It is the original version you forgot while living inside old stories. Dissolving the old code is the step that brings you back, not the step that takes you somewhere else. Your true self is not something you need to create. It is something you need to remember. When you feel this dissolution, your body becomes lighter. Not physically lighter, but energetically lighter. Things that once had the power to pull you down lose their strength. Heavy emotions no longer have the ability to control you as before. Your mind becomes clearer. Not because you are forcing positivity, but because you are seeing everything more clearly. When you see the truth, fear cannot stay. When you see the nature of things, repetition cannot continue. What is dissolving is not you. What is dissolving are the structures that made you forget who you are. And the moment they disappear, you begin to feel something very familiar that you lost long ago. That is freedom. This freedom does not come from doing anything new. It comes from no longer having to live by codes you did not write. And from the moment you realize this, you are stepping into the deepest part of the bridge. You are allowing your true self to come closer, and you are letting the old layers leave you without needing to hold on or resist. This dissolution is the gift. And if you are reading these words, you are standing inside that gift. You only need to continue allowing your awareness to open. The rest, the old code, will dissolve on its own. Alignment begins at the moment. Every movement inside you becomes clear without you having to try to understand it. This is the point where you realize that the things that once made you misaligned, once confused you, once caused you to react from instinct, now suddenly feel light. As if you have stepped into a layer where everything has long been in its rightful place. The world has not become easier. You have simply touched your true rhythm. When the old code has dissolved and the inner current has shifted direction, your body and awareness begin to naturally adjust into a more stable structure. This stability does not come from your control, but arises naturally like a stream returning to its true flow after being diverted for a long time. You no longer have to strain to maintain balance, because balance has become the foundation. You no longer have to hold yourself away from fear, because fear no longer has a place to cling to. Alignment is the moment the entire inner layer of you settles into its true order. Notice this: thoughts that once pulled you in many directions now become focused without you forcing anything. Emotions that once surged up through familiar patterns now become so clear that you see their roots before they influence you. Reactions that used to be automatic now contain a very small pause, allowing you to see through them instead of being carried by them. This pause is the sign of alignment. When you have that pause, you are no longer living from the old self. Alignment is not a state without emotion. It is a state where you feel but are not swallowed. It is the moment you can observe your inner world as if you are standing at a higher point where everything becomes clear like clean water. Not because the problem disappears, but because you see the problem from a wider awareness. You are no longer trapped inside your own experience. You see the whole landscape. And when you see the whole landscape, small things no longer pull you off track. At the layer of alignment, your body also changes. Your heartbeat becomes steady without heaviness. Your breath deepens without effort. There is a release happening inside you even while you are still facing real situations. This does not mean you are indifferent. It means you have stopped living from the defensive layer. When the body no longer defends, the mind and emotions fall into a new order. And when this order forms, you step into a level of peace that you previously could only touch for very brief moments. Now, I want to ask you something. Are you still here with me? If you are still feeling each line, if you feel yourself resonating with what is opening inside, press like to synchronize with the awareness you are having. This is not a mechanical action. It is the sign that lets me know you are not only reading, but truly in this journey with me. The moment you confirm your presence, you also realign with the inner decision that brought you here. And I am grateful for that. Alignment also clarifies what still belongs to you and what no longer does. Old relationships that once felt heavy no longer pull you. Old concerns that once distracted you no longer have a place. Old stories that once drew you back again and again no longer hold attraction. You are not resisting them. You are simply no longer in the layer where they can reach you. This is true freedom, not freedom from the world, but freedom from the structures that used to control you from within. In this layer, you begin to see things you had never seen before. You see repeating patterns in your life. You see the causes behind your reactions. You see the limits built from old wounds. And most importantly, you see that you no longer have to live within those limits. When this awareness appears, you are no longer pulled into loops you once called destiny. You step out of them naturally because you have moved to a layer where they no longer affect you. This alignment also makes you stronger in a very quiet way. Not strong to win, but strong to remain steady. Not strong to resist, but strong to stay still. A stillness with depth, with weight, with the ability to quiet the chaos that you once thought you could never rise above. When you stand in alignment, you do not react to the energy around you. You calibrate your own energy, and from there, the energy around you adjusts by itself. The strange thing about alignment is that you do not feel like you are trying to change anything. You simply live from clarity instead of from vagueness. You act from awareness instead of from fear. You choose what is aligned instead of what is familiar. And every small action like that makes life respond in a smoother, lighter, less resistant way than you have ever known. If in this moment you feel something inside standing upright again, even the slightest bit, that is alignment. No need to prove it, no need to explain it. Just recognize that you are standing in the exact rhythm of the self you are becoming. From this point on, you no longer move through life as someone looking for a way. You move through life as someone who has found their step, and that is the clearest sign of inner alignment. The new configuration of reality never appears through a major event or a sign that makes you recognize it immediately. It always forms quietly in very small moments from within you before the external world has time to reflect it back. When you have stepped through the perceptual shift, have heard the call, have stood on the inner bridge, have allowed the old code to dissolve, and have aligned with yourself, the reality around you begins restructuring in a very subtle way. Not because circumstances change, not because you affirm something new, but because you have become someone reality must adjust itself to match. This new configuration does not present itself like a door suddenly opening. It presents itself like a gradual clarity of what used to be blurry. Intuition becomes sharper, perception becomes more accurate. Things that once felt chaotic begin to arrange themselves in order. Decisions that once made you hesitate now feel light. Directions that once caused doubt now feel natural. You do not need to search for signs. You yourself are becoming the sign. When the new configuration begins running in your inner system, you will feel a strong simplification. Not simplification because you cut things out, but because the things that no longer fit automatically fall out of your center. Small anxieties that once clouded awareness disappear. Old stories that once consumed your attention fade. Fears that once made you step back lose their echo. Not because they dissolve instantly, but because they have no place to attach inside a structure that has been rewritten. One of the most subtle signs of the new configuration is lightness in making choices. Before, you always had to analyze, think, weigh things out. But when the new configuration operates, the correct choice often carries a very clear feeling, as if you no longer need to find the path because the path appears when you stand in the right place. There is no voice telling you where to go, no instruction forcing you to decide immediately, only a sense that there is a right direction and an unaligned direction. And that feeling is strong enough for you to trust it. In the old configuration, you reacted to life. In the new configuration, you adjust awareness and life adjusts itself accordingly. This is not a beautiful theory. This is how it actually works. When you stand in a higher level of awareness, situations that once shook you become harmless. People who once drained you lose their influence. Challenges that once worried you become tests you pass with ease. You do not avoid, you do not fight. You simply no longer oscillate with what once pulled you off balance. The new configuration also changes the tempo of reality, not in the physical sense, but in the sense that things arrive and leave according to a new rhythm. What is right comes faster. What is wrong leaves earlier. Aligned opportunities appear in moments you could not previously explain. Doors that once stayed closed now crack open, not because of luck, but because you have changed the vibrational layer life is responding to. One of the strongest signs of the new configuration is natural shedding. Relationships that are no longer aligned begin to fall back. Old habits begin to crack. Old beliefs begin to loosen. Not because you resist them, but because your new self is no longer compatible with them. When two structures are incompatible, one must drop away. And usually what drops away is whatever no longer belongs to you. The interesting thing is that the new configuration does not make you perfect. It makes you real. You no longer try to be strong. You simply stop fearing weakness. You no longer try to prove value. You simply realize that value is not something to create, but something to reveal. You no longer try to control everything. You simply see that life works better when you stop holding it too tightly. The new configuration does not turn your life into a challenge-free journey. It turns challenges into things you can walk through with integrity, and the new configuration also changes how you see yourself. You no longer see yourself as an incomplete version or a project needing repair. You begin to see yourself as a system expanding, a system learning to operate on a higher layer of awareness, a system shedding what does not fit and adapting to a deeper dimension of being. When the way you see yourself changes, the way you see the world changes too. You no longer feel the world is against you. You begin to see that the world is rearranging to match you. The new configuration also clarifies what belongs to you and what does not through words, but through feeling. You begin to sense the invitations from aligned directions, aligned people, aligned opportunities. And in contrast, you feel the subtle resistance whenever you try to hold on to what is meant to leave. This is not force. It is synchronization. When you are in the right layer, everything not belonging to that layer naturally exits to make room for what is better. If in this moment you can feel that everything inside you is rearranging, even very lightly, that is the new configuration beginning to operate. You do not need to know what the future will look like. You only need to know that the layer of awareness you are standing in right now is enough for life to respond differently. When the new configuration operates, you no longer live according to what happens to you. You live according to what is opening within you. And right now, that configuration is truly opening. The embodiment of the new self does not begin when you change your behavior. It begins when you change the position from which you stand inside yourself. When the new configuration has operated long enough, when alignment becomes a foundation instead of a passing moment, you will feel something very clear. Not that you are trying to become different, but that you simply have become different. Not that you are practicing living as the new version, but that the new version is living through you. Embodiment is the stage where there is no distance between what you know and what you are. Before, you understood much but lived very little. You had awareness but could not hold it in real life. You had intuition but let it be overshadowed by fear. You had a higher frequency but kept falling back into old loops. But when embodiment occurs, the things you once had to try to maintain become natural reflexes. Not because you are better, but because you have become someone who is compatible with those choices. The first thing you notice when embodiment appears is the softness in the way you show up. Not softness as weakness, but softness as stability. A stability that needs no tension, no proving, no effort to hold. You enter every situation with clarity but without strain, with peace but without passivity, with stillness yet fully alert. This makes you steady in a way that no one can shake, because you no longer rely on the world to confirm you. When you embody, you no longer react to life from the old self. Things that once made you defensive no longer create contraction inside you. Words that once unsettled you no longer reach the deeper layers of you. Situations that once pulled you down now pass through without leaving marks, not because life has become lighter, but because you have become a version large enough to hold it without being defined by it. Embodiment also changes the way you communicate with the world. You speak less, but speak more accurately. You no longer try to persuade anyone, nor try to be understood. You simply speak what is true, clear, and pure from your authentic self. Others can feel the certainty in your words, not because you speak forcefully, but because you no longer speak from a layer of doubt. Everything you express comes from a point you have lived, not from a point you are trying to believe. Another sign of embodiment is the effortlessness in right action. You no longer have to force yourself to choose the better option or respond from a higher layer. You simply do so because it has become who you are. That is when discipline becomes instinct. That is when clarity becomes habit. That is when limits that once confined you become too small for you to return to, and you no longer desire to remain within them. At the embodiment layer, you begin to realize you no longer need external validation because your presence already carries weight. When you enter a room, others may not know why, but they feel your stillness. When you make a decision, everything around you begins to rearrange more clearly. When you are silent, that silence has its own language. And when you speak, your words carry the force of someone who has walked through themselves. Embodiment is also the moment you look back at your journey and realize that what once hurt you no longer makes you tremble, not because you forgot, but because you have become someone who can look at everything without losing steadiness. The past is no longer a place that holds you. It becomes the foundation you stand on, and the present becomes the space where your new self expands without needing permission. The most subtle aspect of embodiment is that it does not make you proud, it makes you humble. Because when you live from your true self, you no longer need comparison, you no longer need competition, you no longer need to prove who is right or wrong. You only want to live in your own rhythm. And this humility creates a power others can feel even when you say nothing. In this stage, the future is no longer something you must predict or control. The future becomes the natural flow of the self you are expanding into. You no longer chase it, you walk with it. And every step you take comes from inner clarity rather than lack. When you live from fullness, everything else naturally grows with you. Embodiment is not the end point. It is the point where you begin living truly as who you were born to be. And when you stand in this state, you no longer change only your life. You change the space around you. You lighten the reality of those you touch. You become the still point others seek, not because you try, but because you embody your own truth. And right now, as you read these words, that embodiment is beginning to operate. You do not need to do anything more. You only need to continue living from the clarity you have opened. The new self is no longer something you are moving toward. It is what you have become.